Yeah, please read it. Consent.
Consent কোথায় গেল? Sir, shall I start?
Yeah.
Consent. Results of qualitative research indicated a range of views regarding consent mechanisms for future research use. Consenting for future research can be complex given that the exact nature of the study will be unknown, and therefore some respondents suggested that a broad statement on future data uses be included during the consent process. In contrast, other participants indicated that the current consent process were too broad and do not reflect patient preference sufficiently. The importance of respecting the original consent in all future research was noted. It was suggested that seeking additional consent for future data use may discourage participants in the original study. Difference in views regarding the provision of detailed information about sharing individual level data was noted, suggesting that the researchers wanted to extract some control over the data they had collected. An opt-out consent process was considered appropriate in some situations, but not all. Some respondents suggested that consent to use a participant's medical record
To use a
patient's medical records was not required. There was support by some researchers to provide patients with option to opt in to different level of involvement in a registry setting, providing patients more granular choices when controlling access to their medical data was seen as important.
Okay, stop. Now what we have understood, why the consenting is difficult? Who can say?
Sometimes participants opt out in the research process also.
Okay, any other?
Because the consent process is bit too broad, and so they feel bit difficult to go through and all.
Sir, they say that the importance of respecting the original consent in all future research was noted. It was suggested that seeking additional consent for future data use may discourage participation in the original study. So that must be making...
Yes, that is true. Very much. Thank you, Varsha. Varsha, now you read the attitudes of ethics.
The attitudes of ethics and review boards where n is equals to 30 towards the use of medical records for research was discussed in one article. While 38% indicated that no further consent would be required, 47% required participant consent, and 10% said that the requirement for consent would depend on how the potentially identifying variables would be managed. External researcher access to medical record data was associated with a requirement for consent.
Okay, since it is a medical record, no? So consent is very important. Okay. Next, acknowledgement.
Acknowledgement. The importance of establishing mechanisms which acknowledge the use of shared data was discussed in 4 articles. A significant proportion of respondents to a survey believed it was fair to use other researchers' data if they acknowledged the originator
One second.
and the funding body in all disseminated work, or as a formal citation in published works. Other mechanisms for acknowledging the data originator included opportunities to collaborate on the project, reciprocal data sharing agreements, allowing the originator to review or comment on results, but not approve derivative works, or the provision of a list of products making use of the data and co-authorship. In the setting of controlled data collections, survey results indicated that ensuring attribution was a motivator for controlled access. Over half of respondents in one survey believed it was fair to disseminate results based either in whole or part without the data provider's approval. No significant differences in mechanism for acknowledgement was noted between clinical and scientific participants. Mechanisms included co-authorship, recognition in the acknowledgement section of publications, and citation in the bibliography. No consistent method for acknowledging shared data reuse was identified.
Okay, so in our dissertation, we are always writing acknowledgement. And why this acknowledgement is important, now you can understand.
Yes, sir.
We are not following, we are not giving much importance on acknowledgement, but acknowledgement is vital.
Yes, sir.
Because we are collecting data from different sources. So we have to acknowledge them. That is okay. From these schools, we have received the data. And these schools are located in this type of places. So that is the vital for your acknowledgement. Okay, but usually we acknowledge only the supervisor and faculties and the friends, etc., but not about the data collection sources. Sources for your data collection, you have to acknowledge. Okay, that is the vital. Next, ownership.
Data ownership was identified as a potential barrier to increased data sharing in academic research. In the setting of control of data collections, survey respondents indicated that they wanted to maintain some control over the data set, which is suggestive of researchers having a perceived ownership of their research data. Examples of researchers extending ownership over their data include the right to publish first and the control of access to data sets. Fisher et al. Noted that the idea of data ownership by the researcher is not a position always supported legally. The ownership and rights of use, privacy, contractual consent, and copyright are subsumed. Rather, data sharing is restricted by privacy law, which is applied to data sets containing data from individuals. The legal uncertainty about data ownership and the complexity of law can deter data sharing.
Okay, so in relation with the data sharing, ownership is vital. Okay, in writing your dissertation, you always write that the ownership of your data, because you have collected the data And so this is your ownership. So please you maintain this thing. And related to the data sharing, if you want to share any data, then your name must be mentioned in the data sharing process. That is vital.
But sir, one thing I want to know, in
Yeah.
our dissertation format, whatever, and the thesis format, whatever it has been given by the university, it is not mentioned anywhere else related to ownership and related to sharing the data. No any such kind of columns. And we have to follow the university norms.
Okay. But we are maintaining the ownership.
So,
And our students, RPRIT, they are also writing. That is,
okay.
I personally collected this data. So they are writing this thing.
Okay. Where
Sir,
it should
This is, I
in
think,
forms of
vital.
in forms of declaration, we also write that data has been collected by the primary researcher solely for this present study purpose. We also provide this kind of declaration,
Okay.
not that data ownership format, but we provide such declaration.
Sir,
No,
even in methodology section also you write how you have collected your data. So
that is the
primary data
process.
will be described by you
No,
that
no,
I
no.
have
In
done this
methodology,
thing.
the process which we write. And so far as declaration is concerned, over there we write that. But ownership is not mentioned at the per se ownership and per se data sharing.
Sir,
We
in
don't
secondary
mention.
data, sir, when we're working with secondary data, we are supposed to say na, that this person, this data was collected from there. So the ownership goes to that person.
That's why I'm asking now. There is no any kind of such format from the university side that where we can mention all these things, because it is very true. It should be. And in the if we go through the articles in, I mean, these Western articles and these, so over there it is mentioned. But I have gone through the thesis of I mean this American universities also. It is not mentioned.
The primary
I think
data
in the
one is very
declaration is mentioned, right?
Declaration that is
Yes,
mentioned that
sir.
done researches
Declaration.
and this
In
thing.
the declaration, so it is already written. Maybe this ownership, this particular format is not there, but in the declaration, this is clearly written. Because that is vital. Otherwise, the PhD thesis will not be accepted. Because you have collected the data.
Yes, yes, yes.
Therefore, most of the time you will find that is in APA level journal, they are maintaining the active voice. They are not maintaining passive voice.
Right.
I collected data. So that is the style. So they are maintaining active voice.
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So that is your ownership.
Okay.
Next.
promotion or professional criteria. The role of data sharing and its relation to promotion and professional criteria were discussed in 2 articles. The requirement to share data is rarely a promotion or professional criterion. Rather, the systems are based on grants and publication history. One study noted that while the traditional link between publication history and promotion remains, it is likely that funders will continue to get suboptimal returns on their investments, and that data will continue to be inefficiently utilized and disseminated.
Is it clear what is called the promotion and the professional criteria?
Not really. So I don't understand why it will be a suboptimal because of the link between publication history and promotion.
Sir, actually,
otherwise the funding organization may not provide you the fund, because if you cannot justify, that is whatever your research that has been published or there is some possibility to publish the research in some peer-reviewed journal, etc. So the funders, they will not provide you the fund. So at least there is some promotion and professional criteria is there. That should be. And you know that is recently RPRIT has started one research fund for 1 lakh rupees for any short-term type of research. I think you have received the advertisement, everybody. So please, you can apply.
Okay.
If you are interested.
Short term, a particular term. I mean,
short-term empirical research.
right.
And
I mean,
particularly on Ravindric value survey.
okay.
Okay. Because we have developed the questionnaire. And after that, we want to collect the data about the distribution of Ravindric values among the different communities and what is its impact on the behavior, etc. And we have extracted these values from Rabindra Sangit. Okay. So we have published several research papers, and now we have to give much importance on the questionnaire, because particularly in case of Ravindric psychotherapy, we have observed that ranking the values or rating the values can provide lot of information about how to give the psychoeducational counseling to the individual or the client. Okay. Therefore, we are giving much importance on the survey so that we can publish some research paper in the good journal. So that will be our promotion. That is the objective. So the funders will be interested if you can justify that you have published some research paper in the good journal. Okay.
Okay. Publishing aspect is a promotion.
Yeah, publishing aspect is promotion.
Right.
That is one side. And sometimes some NGOs, they are collecting the data for the professional purpose. For example, they want to provide some education about some particular area. And before that, they want to find out what is the needs of the community. For example, today I guided one student about the breastfeeding. So whether the people of the community is aware about the need for breastfeeding.
Yes.
And what are the difficulties are there related to the breastfeeding. So this is the community need. And after that, the concerned teacher will give some psychoeducation related to the breastfeeding.
Right.
So this is the professional aspect.
Okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Now, Barsha, next discussion.
Discussion. This systematic literature review highlights the ongoing complexity associated with increasing data sharing across the sciences. No additional literature meeting the inclusion criteria were identified in the period between the data search and the submission of this manuscript. Data gaps identified include a paucity of information specifically related to the attitudes of breast cancer researchers and health professionals towards the secondary use and sharing of health administrative and clinical trial data.
Okay.
Why the
So that
majority
is the
of
paucity of information. And here the research area is the breast cancer. Okay. Related to that, the information paucity is there. Yeah, thank you. Now I am requesting Shumana, please you read while the majority.
While the majority of respondents believed the principles of data sharing were sound, significant barriers remain. That is, issues of consent, privacy, information security, and ownership were key themes throughout the literature. Data ownership and acknowledgement, trust, and policy frameworks influenced sharing practice, as did age, discipline, professional focus, and world region. Addressing concerns of privacy, trust, and information security in a technologically changing and challenging landscape is complex. Ensuring the balance between privacy and sharing data for the greater goodwill required the formation of policy and procedures, which promote both these ideals. Establishing clear consent mechanisms would provide greater clarity for all parties involved in the data sharing debate. Ensuring that appropriate consent for future research, including secondary data analysis and sharing and linking of data sets, is gained at the point of data collection, would continue to promote research transparency and provide healthcare professionals and researchers with knowledge that an individual is aware that their data may be used for other research purposes. The establishment of policy which supports and promotes the secondary use of data and data sharing will assist in the normalization of this type of health research. With the increased promotion of data sharing and secondary data analysis as an established tool in health research, over time barriers to its use, including perceptions of ownerships and concerns regarding privacy and consent, will decrease. The importance of establishing clear and formal processes associated with acknowledging the use of shared data has been underscored in the results presented. Initiatives such as the Bio- Bioresource Research Impact Factor or Framework, that is BRIEF, and the citation of bioresources in journal articles have sought to formalize the process. However, increased academic recognition of sharing data for secondary analysis requires further development and the allocation of funding to ensure that collected data is in a usable, searchable, and retrievable format. Further, there needs to be a shift away from the traditional criteria of academic promotion, which includes research outputs, to one which is inclusive of a researcher's data sharing history and the availability of the research dataset for secondary analysis. The capacity to identify and use already collected data was identified as a barrier. Moves to make data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable have been promoted as a means to encourage greater accessibility to data in a systematic way. The FAIR principles focus on the data characteristics and should be interpreted alongside the collective benefit, authority to control, responsibility, and ethics. Principles established by the Global Indigenous Data Alliance, which are people and purpose oriented. Limitations. The sir continue korbo. Should I? Limitations. The paper included in this study were limited to those indexed on major database. Some literature on this topic may have been excluded if it was not identified during the grey literature and hand searching phases. Now the implications. Results of the systematic review indicate that while there is broad agreement for the principles of data sharing in medical research, there remain disagreements about the infrastructure and procedures associated with the data sharing process. Additional work is therefore required on areas such as acknowledgement, curation, and data ownership. Conclusion: while the literature confirms that there is overall support for data sharing in medical and scientific research, there remain significant barriers to its uptake. These include concern about privacy, consent, information security, and data ownership.
Thank you. Now there is another thing, abbreviation. If you have used any abbreviation, you have to write down. Okay. And particularly in one thesis, I have seen that is the thesis has been rejected because the abbreviations are not clearly mentioned. So be careful if you want to use any abbreviation, and there will be one page for the abbreviations. Okay, so be careful about it. And acknowledgement, author's contribution, all these things will be in the systematic literature review, even the funding. If you get any fund, and that should be mentioned in the systematic literature review. Availability of data and materials, ethics approval and consent to participate. It is not applicable. Consent for publication, not applicable.
Sir, suppose ethical committee approved that. So we have to give the ethical registration number?
Yeah, not the ethical, that registration number, that is not important. Important part is approval of the ethical committee, that should be added in the appendix section.
Okay, okay. So that certificate you have to
yeah,
mention.
that should be there in the appendix. Here, author details also written. And this is the format for writing the references.
So
but to be careful about the reference style from the specific journal, because reference style varies with the different types of journal. Okay, so be careful. Please you study the journal in which you want to publish your research paper.
Right. Sir, what would be in competing interest?
Competing?
Interest. It's a conflict of interest.
Declared that they have no competing interest. Usually we are writing conflict of interest.
Conflict of interest. This is the same one. Okay, okay.
But it is, maybe this is the style of this particular journal.
Right.
So we have understood that is how to write the systematic literature review. This is the vital part. And the next part will be the meta-analysis. And my student, Dr. Sumana Datta, she will teach you. So please, you do not miss her class.
Yes, sir.
Okay, because she is not easily available. She is very busy. She is international speaker. So I am requesting all of you, please, you do not miss our class.
No, sir, definitely we will take this.
Now here you can find out the synthesis. This picture, is it clear to all of you?
Yes.
Okay. So here you can find out 18 articles are there, and broad area is the barriers and facilitators. Another one, access and ownership, 6 articles are there. N equal to 6. And here you can find out some article related to this is the codes. Okay, and these codes are there, and based upon that code, authors, they have described the result section.
This 1, 2, 5, 4, these are codes.
Yeah, this ownership, that is one code.
Okay.
Acknowledgement.
Is code number. Yes.
Yeah, so during studying the result section, we have already noted that is one consent paragraph is there, ownership paragraph is there, acknowledgement paragraph is there. All those things are there. So this is the funding policy related. 2 papers are there related to the policy. 1 paper declared about the funding. So like that. So this is the initial code. And this is the synthesis. So please you maintain the systematic literature review, the trend analysis.
How they have divided into 2, sir? How they have divided into 2, access and ownership and barrier and facilitators?
They have written here. I do not know because it is 18 articles they have written, but it is n equal to 8 and n equal to 6. But they have written it is 18 articles. I do not know. Why it is there. But these are the codes.
Right.
And this is the synthesis.
So we can do also not only the this thing, synthesis analysis on this one part, but we can do, divide the 2 or 3 also.
Yeah, initially we have to do the codes.
Right.
After that, synthesis will be there. And if we follow these codes and synthesis, and by the year, then we can show the trend analysis.
Right.
Trend analysis, that is also possible by the research area also. For example, maybe the cancer research, that is maximum in USA. And maybe you will find that is the 40% researches are conducted by the authors of USA. And others may be conducted by some other countries. So that is also possible. And by the year, if it is, then you should have a large number of data. But particularly for your training, I have requested you, please you think about the 30 data so that you can manage the distribution.
Yes.
Sir, this synthesis is also based upon this one research question only, no, sir?
Yeah, that is initially the codes are there. So you are making synthesis out of the codes. And the codes will be based upon your research question. Naturally, synthesis will be based upon your research question because the origin is your research question.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So please you finish the coding part by year, then you can draw the line chart. In the x-axis, there will be the year, and in the y-axis will be the frequency of particular study.
Sir.
That is possible. So you can share. That is in which year particularly maximum studies were conducted, and what are the areas maximum studies were conducted. So that is possible following your codes. Okay, so that is possible.
Sir, even this trend analysis, we can mix up with other than this one, Science Direct also, no, sir?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, sir. Okay.
But you have to mention that
Okay, sir.
is these data are collected from Science Direct, or these data collected from Google Scholar, these data collected from PubMed. Everything should be mentioned. How many data, how many articles you have collected from PubMed, how many articles you have collected from, and whether there is any overlapping, because some articles may be published in both PubMed and the Google Scholar. So you must be very much clear, that is whether there is overlapping or not.
Yes, sir.
So we have to mention the overlapping also, or we have to select the one only?
Only one.
Only
And
one.
we have to write down, that
Right.
is, we have noted the overlapping, but we have selected only one.
Okay.
So that will increase the reliability of your paper.
Okay. Okay.
Because you have mentioned the limitation of your research paper. That is vital.
And we have to mention also, we have selected from PubMed, or we have selected from this, I mean, overlapping data.
Yeah, if you find that is okay, these are the researchers, they have contributed papers in both PubMed and the ResearchGate, Google Scholar.
Right.
And if it is the same paper, then you have to select only one paper.
And as to mention that we have selected from ResearchGate.
Yeah, that you can write down.
Right.
But the period is very important. That is which period, maybe last 10 years or last 5 years, you have to mention, and you have to give adequate justification.
Right. Sir,
For
suppose...
example, related to the COVID-19, you cannot tell that is okay, I have studied the papers from last 20 years.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Because the COVID-19 is a recent issue. Right. So you can tell that is okay, last 5 years.
And suppose, sir, the 3 articles same in PubMed and Science Direct or ResearchGate, and the year are different. So which year we should prefer to select?
No, year will not be the different.
Okay, okay. It's not, suppose 2018.
Yeah, year will be the same. Because if the paper will be published and the year will be different, no, that is not possible. Because they are basically the search engines.
Okay.
Science Direct, Google Scholar, PubMed, they are search engines.
True.
So one has published the paper in the journal and the year is same.
No, sometimes, sir, I have seen the same journal, little bit with modifications, they publish in a different journal also.
No, if you, how is it possible? If it is different, then the title will be different.
Little bit change. Okay, okay. In that way, that
title will be different, no? Yes. Title cannot be the same.
Okay.
Because then it will be the violation, copyright violation.
It will come under publication ethics.
Yes.
Yeah, correct. So that will be the violation. That one cannot do.
So the year and number of journals will be mentioned in that one, sir, in the trend analysis. And
trend analysis.
will be mentioned in the literature review, sir. The literature have been studied from PubMed, Google Scholar, like that we will mention in the Google, this one, literature review.
Yeah,
and
in the literature review, you can write
in the trend analysis.
Trend analysis will be the codes.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
For example, you have written that is, it is at least 10 articles have at least the 3 codes are there. And these 10 articles are synthesis as the psychological studies only. So if you make any pie diagram, so then automatically it will be the 3 areas will be there. Okay.
Mm.
So that will be useful for the data visualization.
Mm.
Okay. Any more question?
Yes, sir. No, it's okay, sir.
No, sir.
Thank you. So I think you have understood how to write the systematic literature.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's good. Okay, good night.
Good night, sir.
Good night, sir.
Good night. Best
Good
wishes.
night.